My name is Lisa Eschen Wilson. I am a postdoc funded by the National Science Foundation at the Scripps Research Institute in La Jolla, California. So someone very close to me in my family was born with a very severe health condition. And I remember feeling very frustrated. I was 13 at the time, with the lack of answers. So it was caused by a rare genetic mutation. And I remember just feeling very frustrated that there weren't answers or a very clear understanding of why this happened to my very special person. And so when I was 13, I started volunteering at that hospital, as a children's hospital. And the more I worked at the hospital, the more I got excited about both medicine and research. And then at my college, Grinnell College, very small college in Iowa, I did a program called the Grinnell Science Project. And this project is geared towards increasing underrepresented students in sciences. So they fly you out early before classes start. And then you get to take science classes, short science labs in all the science divisions: physics, biology, biochemistry, chemistry. And I really loved the microscopy, the first microscopy experiment that I did. We were looking at actin in C. elegans, and I was just like, this is awesome. I feel like this is a really nice glimpse into helping us understand really the basic mechanisms of how things work in the universe. And so that's when I knew I wanted to be a scientist, to help answer these questions. I'm currently working on using a technique called cryo-electron microscopy, which essentially means I use very high-end microscopes, transmission electron microscopes, to take photos, take images of molecular machines in the body. So different enzymes at work, really catching them in action. And the enzyme that I'm focused on, you can think of it as the pursuit of the youth elixir. It's called YMU1L. And I'm very interested in understanding how we age. And this protein plays a critical role in understanding how we age, because it is really important for maintaining quality control and proteostasis within the mitochondria. And we notice that when YME1 is depleted from the cells, it leads to problems in high energy tissues, from the heart to the brain to the eye. And so understanding how this works, and specifically how it uses energy in the cell to maintain quality control, is really important for me in my current studies and in my future studies as well. So far, the path has been very direct. I went to Grinnell College, and at the time, Grinnell was actually the largest producer of female PhDs per capita. So going there, I felt like it was really great training to start my PhD at Berkeley. And then after 4 years at Berkeley, I got excited about the postdoc opportunity that I have now with Gabe Lander at Scripps. And so now moving forward, I feel actually really excited to take on a more creative path and do something really different, really live outside of the box, color outside of the lines, and take on entrepreneurship opportunities, blend that with my passion for academia, and really grow, really push myself and think differently. I also want to be part of changing academia, transforming it, because while I really appreciate my training, I do think there's a lot of room for growth, especially in terms of how we treat people who think differently and are just unique and complex in beautiful ways. I want to be part of fostering that a lot more, because honestly, that's where some of the best, most creative ideas come out of, out of these really sort of unique thinkers. And so so I really want to blend these different paths and be part of changing the academic route. And so now I'm hoping my career takes more of these organic and exciting twists and turns. I'm intentionally going off-road in my 4x4 now. I'm very interested in blending the academic and entrepreneurship sort of opportunities. And so what I've loved recently are these groups popping up like Altos and the ARC Institute that are blends of academic and industry-like platforms or infrastructures. And so with everything going on, especially in our economy and our government structures, I do think that doing science for yourself and for your community, it's going to be a little harder to do, especially as you're competing for funding. And so I really want to maintain that freedom, that sense of freedom, where I'm not doing science just because I know it'll lead to this grant or that grant. It's going to be much more like I don't want it to be capital driven science that I want to do. And I am seeing a lot of those pressures in the more traditional academic route. And so for me, being able to blend financial resources, different collaborations, like you pointed out earlier, collaborations across all different kinds of labs, really not being limited by infrastructure. So at Grinnell, I also majored in or minored in public policy. And so that was really instrumental for me, where when I'm in a space, I know that the rules or the structure, the infrastructure that exists is not limiting. It can change. You can be part of changing it. You can write new policy. You can have discussions with stakeholders. You can look for what's their incentives versus what are my incentives or goals. How can our interests align? You can have these negotiations and really make change. And so that was something really instrumental for me at Berkeley, that mindset, because one thing I noticed was the number of Black women in the program sort of staying stagnant since the 60s. And and then the rate of publishing, how often they publish, and even if they publish at all during their PhD, was very low. And these numbers weren't changing. And so I went to the dean, and in the same way I was describing sort of having these conversations, trying to blend different worlds, I said, I'm really uncomfortable with the current infrastructure. I think these changes need to happen in order for my success, in order for me to feel safe and confident and comfortable here. And one thing, a big trend that I've seen is that individuals from different backgrounds, especially Black women, when they want to see change, they start these really great groups, these DEI initiatives, but it takes away from their science. It's exhausting. And it's like you're doing 3 jobs. You're not getting paid to do this extra work as well. And it's like a form of consulting. And then also, doing that work is really heavy. Going back and evaluating what initiatives are working versus not working, that's a whole nother conversation that I feel like now we need to be having as well. Are we potentially doing more harm than good? The good that is being done, how are we rewarding it in sustainable ways? These are all conversations I started to have at Berkeley, and they were really great in helping me get started with a certain policy change that I could implement and work with professors on. Specifically, it was called Inclusive MCB. Now it's called iBio because it's expanded beyond the MCB molecular cell biology program and now includes several other programs at Berkeley, which I think is really exciting. And so that's something, sort of that creativity and that experience made me feel like, okay, I can continue to push boundaries. I can continue to advocate for change, and I can do it in a scientific, systematic way that is not infringing on my well-being, my personal well-being. And I can treat it almost like an entrepreneurship business venture where it's a form of consulting. The program curriculum, the program design, program implementation, evaluation, these are all actionable, valued skills that I'm bringing to the table. And so what I feel excited about is, in addition to doing the research I did during my PhD, I gained these leadership skills that are putting me in a place where I feel much more confident doing something more entrepreneurial, but I love the mentoring aspect of academia. So I'm literally trying to craft what would be the best situation for me, sort of brick by brick. And so to answer your question, what am I doing next? I can't tell you right now, but I hope I can tell you soon. I have 3 younger sisters and 2 younger brothers. And the second child after me, my younger sister, is starting her PhD next month. And I'm so proud of her. It's in computational biology. And so I'm going to tell you guys what I told her. And for me, it was really about going at your own pace, not comparing yourself to others. And letting the questions and the science motivate you. Don't let fear motivate you. Don't let someone who's commanding your time, commanding your respect, commanding that you work at their pace, don't let that drive you. You want to be intrinsically driven by the fascinating questions you're trying to answer, and not because there's external pressure. This publish or perish culture that we've really created in academia, I think, is so toxic. And so with my sisters especially, I tell them, please don't be influenced by that. Please try to create your own safe bubble. You have me, you have your advisor. I mean, I've sat in on meetings with my sister and her previous advisors to try to create this small community and let him know that she has another scientist who can hold him accountable for his actions. And we're really a team. She's not isolated. She's not in a desperate position or anything like that. She has bargaining power. She has agency. She has sovereignty. And so I really want her to be driven by her own pace, her own intrinsic goals. And I don't want her to be driven by external pressures, because that's very unsustainable, can lead to a lot of unnecessary stress. There are always pictures of PhD students before and after they graduate, and they look like 100 years old. That's not gonna be us, okay? We're gonna go to pace that makes us feel comfortable and safe and happy, because science is so amazing. It's so invigorating. And I have to say, for me, what motivates me every single day is searching for answers that I want, trying to answer questions and searching for answers that I want. I personally want to know, how does YME1 work, for example? And I have the privilege every day to go to work and just try to answer that question. And I think that's a level of freedom that not a lot of people will ever experience. And so that's one thing I absolutely love. And you want to be able to pursue those exciting questions and that freedom at your own pace, because if you don't, it can feel the opposite. Instead of feeling free, you can feel very trapped or just rushed. And so I think science and art there's a very thin line between the two. And so I always say that this is my process. I have to trust my process. And so that's exactly what I'm telling my younger sisters, especially this sister starting very soon, is trust your process and don't let others influence your process, because it will no longer be your process. And this answer hasn't been, like the answer you're searching for hasn't been found yet. So that means it needs someone new to think of a new strategy to figure it out. It's a hard question. And so that could mean someone who has a very different process from ever before trying to figure it out. That could be what the question needs, is someone who's thinking completely outside of the box, drawing parallels and connecting dots in places where they haven't been connected before. So yeah, that's my advice, is trust your process.